What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Moto Co. We have a 24 450 Xcf-W that we just took delivery on. This is a bike based on the all-new 424 Enduro platform. This chassis was first released in 2022 and a half, the factory edition bike, factory edition motocross competition bikes. In 23, all the competition bikes were on this platform. And in 24, now the Enduro bikes are migrating over to it. So this is the first year of those machines, the Enduros, on this platform. The two-stroke models were released a couple of weeks ago, a month ago or so, and so this is the first of the four-stroke on the new chassis available in the Enduro line. And if you want to see a good video, Chris over at Moto Minded has put out some content on his bike. He's got some hours racking up on his, and he's had some good feedback on the suspension and some of the other items about this bike. So we're just doing our follow-up and some of the things we're noticing, and haven't even started this bike, and we've already started pulling it apart, tearing it down. So I thought we'd start with some of the few changes. I want to keep this pretty brief. This is not a ride review video. Just want to hit some of the high points of what we think are some of its strengths and weaknesses. So taking a look at the headlights, the light over here on the right is the previous generation. So this mask style was introduced in 2017. The fender and mask had a unique fitment, and they were a match set. And so from 17 on, you had this mask. So these years that I'm quoting are specific to the Enduros. The motocross bikes don't have the headlight mask, but they had all new plastics in 16. So here it is in 24. And this is a completely different architecture. You can see that gone are the straps. So used to have, where's this one? Used to have rubber straps on the previous generations, like going way back. You had this situation to mount your headlight to the bars or to the forks rather. And so you don't have that anymore. They only have the little holes here for turn signals. So that gives you an impression that this is going to be the exact same mask for the XCF bikes. So to secure this, now you have these two little securing bosses here. That's what these are. And then you have your two screws right there. I think there might be some weakness and vulnerability here with these two little studs that go into the front fender. These proved to be very reliable. They could break off, and it had happened, but overall super reliable. This plastic is yet to be seen how strong this will be. If you take a side crash, will any of this break? Who knows? And whether or not you'll be able to get this piece just as a replacement, or you have to get the whole thing and assemble it yourself. Who knows? We'll see. New light. Let's talk about the light. So this is a light made by a company called Aspok out of Portugal, and you can, I don't know if it's going to focus on the name right there, but that is their name, Aspok. They are a automotive LED light manufacturer out of Portugal, and this is one of their units. Don't know if this was created just for them, if it's unique part number. There are some tiny numbers here on the unit on the edge. I'll have to Google that later and see. It could be created just for this headlight unit for KTM, or it's something that's been adapted from another vehicle. It has a running light here. So on the old gen light, you had your USDOT run light there. So this is a 3-element light. The run light is here in the center, and that's 1.2 watts. And then you have your high and your low, and those shine up into the reflectors. And the low is 10.1 watts, and then 11.2 watts on the highs. So with the run and high, you're going to be pulling to about 12.5 watts, which is quite impressive, and it's significantly brighter than the incandescent bulb here that it replaces, and that was a 30-watt bulb, and this was, I think this little guy pulled around 3 or 4. So a massive drop in current consumption. And then as far as electrical output on the bike, this should still be the 196 watt gross stator, and the net ends up being somewhere in the 170 range after you derate it for fuel pump and fan and injector ECU and so on. So this light has a very similar attachment. You can see that it's got the little 3-prong, very similar. It doesn't fit in and click in just right, but I'm sure somebody will figure out a way to, if you get in there with the Dremel, I think you can grind away some of the little feet and get it so that you could backwards adapt this light if you wanted to the previous generation bike. So that's the situation going on up there. Now, as far as the connectors go, these are sealed type, so no longer do you have the Molex type open connectors. These are all new. And then here's your start kill switch over here. It's a over under, which I'm a big fan of. I really like this. This is a controversial switch. A lot of guys out there don't like it. I happen to be a big fan of it. Like it a lot. Moto minded, Chris again, he's got a bomber bar switch version, which will swap out. And the primary reason is because this is plastic and vulnerable to cracking and breaking. And his are sealed a little bit better than these. There are reports that waterproofing on these are not so good. So we will upgrade, and he has the same waterproof connector here as the OEM. You'll see some mix of sealed type and open type. So this Molex type connector continues to be open, and this gives us some indication that on the EXC bikes with the unique wiring harness, the harnesses for the two bikes are going to be different. And so this is the multi-mode high-low horn. This is like the EXC switch. And so you can see that even though this is just a two-prong here, this is worth mentioning. This is the on-off switch for the headlight. And I think that's quite a bit more sophisticated than the push-pull switch of the previous generation. And it's just taking up two of the ports. And then so here it's a 6. And that's where on the street bikes, this will plug in, and that'll give you all the left-hand functions. And then what's missing is for the turn signal. And over here, you'll notice there's quite a few little empty ports, and that's where those street functions are all going to get plugged in. So a little insight into that. This right here is the wheel speed sensor, the white one. And then this black one is for the My KTM Wi-Fi dongle that never really has gained traction. They've never really come out with that in volumes. I've ordered them, never have been able to take delivery on one. It was told to me that there was a fire in the factory that exclusively made that component. So I don't know that that's ever going to be released or not. This is a CAN bus. This is an end-of-line for the CAN bus circuit, and you'd plug your multi-mode switch. So that's going to be your traction control. This bike has a quick shifter feature. There's some functions and features that are not active right now on this ECU Rev. I know that the switch has been on back order. They don't come with a map switch. In the 23 version of this bike, it came with a multi-mode map switch, and that was traction control and the 2 maps. Here, it's not available. It didn't come on the OEM bike, on the original bike, and then you'll have to spend extra money to get that as a dealer exclusive feature. And that's what that plug is for. Standard KTM style, these are just negative, these are ground buses. So these are all very common, very classic to see something like that. This is industry standard. So don't look at that and say there's anything cheap about that at all. That's how automotive and power sports grade power buses look, very normal. The Speedo, instead of having the 3 and 4 little connectors, individual connectors, they just ganged them up and put them into one sealed connector, and that is done for the economy of that and simplicity of manufacturing. It was watertight before, it's watertight now. It's just cleaner for manufacturing. I think we talked about this little on and off switch. That's for the headlight. So that pretty much covers it up there. This is probably going to be the turn signal indicator. That's for this little deal here. So this is probably the final configuration for the XCF bikes. There'll just be a different harness and more wiring there. Point out the little holes here for your tie-down straps. Very clever. These are cast triple clamps. It looks like they are CNC milled only in the groove. These are not billet like you find on the Husqvarna bikes or a 6 days. These are the standard traditional cast ones. This machining is either only for aesthetics or just to improve a little bit of the chassis dynamics. It's just tuning. It could be a little bit of both. So time will tell. I don't have any ride time on this bike yet. Back here you see there's a PDM. Now we already talked about this PDM on a previous video. Here it is on a final production bike. And what this is, it does away with all the relays. There are no fuses and relays on these machines any longer. Power distribution module takes power here from the engine and then from the bike itself in the electrical system and sends it out to the ignition, lights, brake horn, pump, fans. So If you have a fault on any of those circuits, it essentially acts as a resettable solid state circuit breaker. It kills the power to that function, and then the light will be red. And if the function is normal, it'll be green. And there are some advantages and disadvantages to using a PDM. It's obviously much simpler for manufacturing, and the aftermarket is still evaluating how this is going to incorporate into some of our features, and it's yet to be seen. Here you have an open type Molex connector. This is for the rear tail light, and because this is the enduro bike or the Xcf-W, it's not street legal, and so it doesn't have the brake function. There's a third wire that would be there if it is the Xcf-W, or the EXCF rather. This is for the stator, I'm sorry, the voltage regulator. Voltage regulator used to be up here on the frame. They've done away with that. You saw that in the 22.5 factory edition bike. It now lives in a side panel under here, and it is theoretically cooled by air coming through. The bike is really breathing through. There's a hole right here, and just underneath here, there's a little air passage, and the air filter's right in here. And so let's see if you can find that. I do like how they improved on this KTM chassis, how easy it is to take the side cover off. This is probably the easiest to remove side cover KTM has had on any of their bikes, and that's impressive. Here is the voltage regulator right here, and so as air is breathing in, is coming in through this little top area right here, it's flowing in and through and around the voltage regulator, and so cooling is affected that way. The rear axle is now 22 millimeters as opposed to the previous generation enduro bikes, which were 20s. All new kickstand, great kickstand. Probably one of the best kickstands in dirt biking right now. They have completely done away with the previous flawed design. This is great. I said in a previous video when we got our 23 450 XCF, I did a video where when we got that bike, I made the statement that it seems like KTM has read all the comments from all of the years of the previous generation's bike and have addressed almost all of them, I think. So I'm a big fan of this platform. I really like some of these changes. You notice that the fuel pump is now here in the center. It's no longer down in the side wing. And there's a single seat bolt here for seat removal. We have a video where we break down everything there is to know about the new fuel pump. So love this. Very satisfying moment. The danger, motorcycles are hazardous to your health sticker. More content to come on this bike. Products are in the works right now for it. If you have any questions about it, let us know. Hit us up in the comments. You can reach out to us through all the regular email, phone, etc. We'll put that information below. Thanks a lot. Like, subscribe, go out, get some adventure.